To me, The Witcher 3 is all about moral ambiguity, where there are no right answers, there are no wrong answers.
And then there I was, like 70 hours into the game, and I was this powerful, sign-slinging, force-pushing monster that I envisioned from the beginning.
It's a big open world game with a bunch of dangerous stuff. You have a sword, you can just walk out and do whatever you want.
If 2015 was anything, it was the year of the expansive, just epic open world game. And more than any other game this year, I felt like the world that The Witcher created was authentic enough that even though it was a fantasy land and it doesn't exist, it absolutely could have existed.
So The Witcher 3's world is full of all these loving little details that makes it feel like an actual place.
It's got a sort of like Brothers Grimm kind of dirtiness to it, where it's very rough around the edges. And I think that's what makes it so unique.
You're always looking at these landmarks in the distance that you know you can get to eventually, but when you're looking at those across forests and mountains and valleys, the game just suddenly composes all those things and it looks like an oil painting.
You can walk from one end to the other, go from outside to inside, then you go back outside, run out into a field and ride your horse across the plains, and it all happens seamlessly, so you're never reminded that this is a virtual creation.
What Geralt does is allow the player to sort of get a sense for the world and play it as they would through the lens of this, this character with a ton of lore and a ton of legend already built up.
See any monsters, eh?
Actually, I see a few monsters.
You know, he's a little bit Batman, he's a little bit John Wayne, but he's a very agreeable one nonetheless. I think primarily because he cares so much about the people around him.
Ciri had to do it. I couldn't let her go alone.
Geralt's personal drama of fulfilling what he sees as his responsibility as a father is a far more compelling look at a character we've already been very familiar with over the years.
I'll go with you if you want.
So often in big open world games, I just want to go off and do side quests and explore. But the magnetism of these characters drew me to the main quest. I wanted to see what happened to Ciri because she was an amazingly complex, fun character to follow.
Ready?
As ever.
Though it is a fantasy, it's a political drama and it's a character drama first.
The extraordinary thing about The Witcher 3's quests is that very often they're like these nesting dolls where you just keep peeling back the layers and you keep finding more and more inside.
The Witcher 3 is a great example of how to do side quests right. There's nothing in that game that feels like busy work.
You go in expecting just kind of a one and done quick kind of side quest or a mini quest, and you end up getting an actual story.
There are moments in each sort of secondary quest that set it up as something that actually happened in this world rather than just going and killing 10 pigs and bringing the goods back for your reward.
The fact that these threads are all linked, but they're part of separate side quests that you can either discover or not discover is a really impressive storytelling feat.
Don't be afraid. I want to lift the curse that grips this island.
Sword fighting is very hard to get right, and when you're dancing around people, you're doing twirls and flips and you're countering and blocking. There's this light, airy feel where you actually feel like a superhuman. And that flies directly in the face of when you're on the back of Roach, your horse, and you're just galloping straight towards something, and with one good swing, you cut something clean in half, and there's that really crunchy feel to it.
One of the reasons that The Witcher 3's combat is so excellent is because it succeeds at making me feel connected to Geralt. Every single strike feels so direct and so quick. It allows the developers to then throw more at you at a time and expect you reasonably to be able to handle it.
I died a lot. I can't say that for many games recently. I constantly felt like a monster was putting me in my place. But that is the great thing about an open world game, is that you can just, run until you get your butt kicked.
The gameplay of The Witcher 3, specifically the combat, doesn't hold your hand in the same way that the storytelling mechanics and the quest mechanics are very morally ambiguous. It doesn't tell you what to do, and in combat, it's all about learning and discovery. Knowing how to fight creatures, knowing the right tactics to use, knowing the right weapons to use.
It's all about taking advantage of your enemy's weaknesses and approaching everything in a very considered manner, and that makes every battle in The Witcher 3 feel very unique. The monsters in The Witcher 3 are what I like to describe as beautifully perverted. They're sort of twisted and leering and broken and grotesque.
There's monsters that are really hideous and ugly, and then there's also things that are just big and scary because you know they can kick your butt.
Whereas we're used to monsters who are just kind of very physically menacing, a lot of the creatures and spirits in The Witcher 3 are actually quite cunning and deceptive. You might think that you're actually helping a tortured soul, when in actuality you might be helping their devious plans come to fruition.
At last,
To me, The Witcher 3 is an enormous, engulfing game that completely stripped me of any semblance of normal life for months.
This is what open world gaming is all about.
And you know, for all of its breadth, there's hardly any element of The Witcher 3 that doesn't stick to the mind. And that's why it's Game of the Year.